but with much of the decision-making made well beforehand. This year, the government's preoccupation will be the economy. Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao has said he would like to see China limit its annual GDP growth to 7%. Given the soaring real estate prices, the government has promised 36 million affordable homes to be built over the next 5 years. Personal income tax will also see a change, with the premier promising it will benefit medium and low-income brackets. It's clear the government is concerned not just with China's growing economy, but with how the money is distributed.
It's a shift from a focus on quantity to quality. And then whether that has to do with the environment or geographic distribution of development or income distribution among classes.
Inflation is the other big problem here, particularly with food prices, giving people a reason to grumble about the government every day.
It would use all the mechanisms at its disposal, interest rates, reserve requirements, even the exchange rate to fight inflation.
So on Saturday, when Premier Wen Jiabao takes the podium, it will be to assure the public the government has this under control.
This year, the word to watch for will be happy. Already, we're seeing it in state media, a happy China and happy Chinese. It's a government promising more than just the basics to the people, more than prosperity, but also well-being. Melissa Chan, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
6 women have been killed in Côte d'Ivoire during a rally in support of Alassane Ouattara, the internationally recognized winner of November's presidential elections. Witnesses say security forces loyal to President Laurent Gbagbo gunned the women down in a northern district of Abidjan. Côte d'Ivoire's UN representative, who was appointed by Ouattara, says the world body must respond as strongly to the killings as it did to the crisis in Libya. Pakistan's Finance Minister Abdul Hafiz Sheikh says the government will halve a proposed 10% hike in fuel prices. The decision came after political pressure from a key party in the ruling coalition. Economists say the government must raise fuel prices to improve its economy. The US president says America must increase efforts to stop guns and money being sold into Mexico. Barack Obama has met the Mexican president, Felipe Calderon, in Washington. Tensions have increased after a US immigration agent was shot dead in northern Mexico by a weapon smuggled from the US. Kimberly Halkett has more.
You can count on us.
It was a warm welcome for Mexican President Calderon at the White House, but behind the public smiles and handshakes, a strained relationship between the two countries remains. The reason, the escalating violence in Mexico's drug war. Calderon criticized the United States for not doing enough to help his country fight organized crime groups responsible for the violence. He blames the U.S. for turning a blind eye to weapons seeping south across its border and not doing enough to stop U.S. demand for illegal drugs.
Thousands of military officers and police have fallen in the line of duty in Mexico. To these deaths, we add the death of Jaime Zapata.
Jaime Zapata is the U.S. immigration agent killed reportedly with a gun purchased in the United States. The White House wants the alleged killer tried in the U.S. Appearing on Capitol Hill, the Homeland Security Secretary reassured lawmakers that would be the case.
Is it the administration's position that we will be seeking extradition into the United States? That's very good news.
Mexico wants assurances the U.S. would not seek the death penalty if the suspect is convicted. But the White House acknowledges it shares responsibility for the wider drug problem.
I reiterated that the United States accepts our shared responsibility for the drug violence.
The U.S. acknowledgement of its role in the cross-border drug problem is being viewed as a step forward.
The question is, are they doing enough to reduce consumption? Are they doing enough to stop the trafficking of weapons?
The U.S. is giving Mexico more than $1 billion a year to help them fight the drug cartels. Washington hopes this will help turn down the temperature in its often heated relationship with an ambivalent neighbor. Kimberly Halkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
German security officials say a man accused of killing 2 U.S. airmen on Wednesday has confessed to targeting Americans. But they say he doesn't appear to be a member of any organized group. The 2 men were killed and another 2 wounded when a gunman opened fire at Frankfurt Airport on a bus carrying U.S. servicemen. A 21-year-old suspect identified as an ethnic Albanian from Kosovo is being held in a German prison. The Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, has condemned Turkey for arresting 6 journalists over a suspected plot to overthrow the government. The arrests follow a 3-year investigation into an ultra-nationalist group. The OSCE says Turkish authorities are intimidating the journalists and wants their immediate release. Now, Indonesia is recognised as having one of the more open societies in Southeast Asia, just 13 years after mass protests helped bring down President Suharto. He'd ruled for 32 years with the backing of the military. Analysts say Indonesia made a success of its revolution by reaching out to all groups, including Islamists. Step Vassen reports.
Democracy, Indonesian style. Protests every day, like this one, against corruption. Still rampant, despite the revolution 13 years ago. Fahri Hamza was one of the students who led the protests against Suharto in 1998. Indonesia became the world's 3rd largest democracy, and the former activist became part of it, as a member of parliament for Indonesia's most prominent Islamic party, the Prosperous Justice Party, affiliated with Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood. The party abandoning its call for an Islamic state and Sharia law.
The Islamic Brotherhood should not keep fighting the government, but it should help build the country, and it should make itself electable to the people.
Now the Prosperous Justice Party is a modern party, with hip-hop at the National Congress and 4 ministers in the government. It's one of the keys to the Indonesian success story. This ally of brotherhood in Egypt has joined the democratic process. Indonesia is proud to be an example where Islam and democracy go hand in hand. But recent religious violence shows that even after escaping dictatorship, democracy will still stay a serious work in progress that needs decisive leadership. The recent murder of 3 members of Ahmadiyya shocked many Indonesians who felt their country was going back to the dark days of 1998. But despite these serious setbacks, Indonesia has changed for good, says the man who led the revolt against Suharto.
Yeah, of course there are still many homeworks which we have to overcome. But at least we enjoy freedom of the press, freedom of opinion, freedom of religion.
Indonesians are watching closely the developments in the Arab world. They know exactly how it felt to fight for that one thing they never had and will now never let go: freedom. Step Vassen, AlJazeera, Jakarta.
To Brazil now, where Rio de Janeiro's revelers are adding the finishing touches to the annual carnival. Samba divas, burly police officers and newly elected President Dilma Rousseff will be among the costumes adorning the streets this season. The party gets into full swing when the mayor of Rio hands over the city's key to King Momo, the carnival's monarch. This is Al Jazeera. These are the stories making headlines here. A Libyan warplane has carried out an airstrike on Friday near a rebel-held base in eastern Libya. Witnesses say at least 1 bomb was dropped on Friday near the base in the eastern town of AlJazeera. The rebels say the bombing caused no damage or casualties. Well, these pictures taken earlier in AlJazeera showed rebel reinforcements arriving and arming themselves. Witnesses say hundreds have gathered there